Welcome to all of you in Learning with Dr. Ibra. So today I'm going to discuss the free trade versus the effects of tariff. So in this video we will compare the consumer surplus, the producer surplus, or the change in consumer surplus and producer surplus, the change in the government revenue, or the deadweight losses before and after the tariffs. So whenever the governments are imposing a tariff, or it's you can say the taxes on imports, so it may change the consumer surplus and producer surplus or the government revenue, that is called income distribution effect, or we may have a deadweight losses, that is called efficiency losses or redistribution losses. So today we'll try to understand how we can calculate numerically the gain from the trade, the changes that happens in these surpluses and the revenues. So let's get started. So if I'll share this is the case one. If you can see this diagram, in the case one we have a supply curve, that's a positive slope, and the demand curve, that's a negatively sloped curve. On x-axis we have taken the quantity, on y-axis we have the prices. So let's suppose the world trade price is PW, that is 12. At that price, in the market, the local production is Q1, that is 25 units. And if we draw that curve to the demand curve, that's representing the local consumption Q2, that is 70 units. So we can understand that at the price of PW, the economy is producing the 25 units, but the economy is consuming 70 units. So we can easily say the world trade price, that is a 12, that economy is falling at that price. The total production is 25 units, but at the same time the total consumption is 70 units. So the imports will be the consumption minus the production. So the Q2 minus Q1, that is representing your total imports of the economy, that is 45 units before the trade. Because in this case right now the government has not imposed any tariff, and the economy is consuming and producing at the world price with the free market. So if we have to calculate here a consumer surplus or the producer surplus, so first we have to see the diagram, that what area is representing the consumer surplus. So all the areas above this price line and below the demand curve, that triangle is representing the consumer surplus. So the maximum price will be 20, that it start from the 20 lower down till the price of the market is 12, and the last unit they consume, that is 70. So that triangle is representing the consumer surplus. And if we have to calculate this numerically, because this is our triangle, so the triangle mean we are going to calculate half of the area. If it's a rectangle or if it's a square, so we will calculate the full area. But because this is a triangle, so we will start with the multiplying a 0.5. Now what we have to do, we have to see what are the prices. The maximum price is 20 and the minimum is 12. So we will take 20 minus 12 and multiply by the quantity. Maximum quantity is 70 and the minimum quantity is 0. So 70 minus 0. So we'll calculate 0.5 multiplied by 8. 8 is the difference between 20 minus 12 and 70. And the answer is 280. That is a consumer surplus before the trade. Similarly, if we have to calculate a producer surplus means above the supply curve, below the price line, that area is representing a producer surplus. So in this case, we have to see what is the maximum price. The maximum price is 12 and the minimum price is 5. And the maximum quantity is 25 and the minimum is 0. But again, this is a rectangle. So rectangle mean we have to calculate its half of the area. So we will multiply with 1 over 2 or 0.5. So we'll start with the 0.5, because this is a rectangle, multiplied by 12 minus 5. So the 12 is the maximum price, 5 is the minimum price, so we have to take the difference. Multiplied by the 25 is the maximum unit here, and the minimum is 0. So we can say 0.5 multiplied by 7, 12 minus 5 is 7, and multiplied by 25. So if we'll get the answer, that is 87.5. That is a consumer surplus in free market before the trade. But as we are going to calculate the effects of the tariff, so let's suppose if the government decided to impose a tariff in this case, then what will be happen? Look at that. Look this diagram. So now in the same diagram, the government has imposed a tariff of $2. So in that case, if the government will impose a tariff of $2, the PW, the trade price, will be shifted upward from 12 to 14. So in that case, the market price will be 14 in the economy. Okay. Now the first thing is, let me calculate step by step. First impact we will see on imports. What will be happen to your imports? Immediately when the market prices will be rise, the local production will start increasing, and that will increase from Q1 to Q1 star. So it will move from 25 to 35. At the same time, if we can see the demand or consumption, local consumption, the local consumption overall will be decreased. So that will decrease from Q2 and reverse back to the Q2 star from 70 till 50. Now, what will be the imports here? Imports will be Q2 star minus Q1 star. That is that your new local consumption and local production. So that will be 50 minus 35. So that will be 15. So now after imposing a tariff, the overall imports has been declined. Like previously before the tariff, our imports was 45 units. But now after imposing a tariff, the overall imports has been declined from 45 to 15. So the imports has been declined. Now, what will be happen to the government revenue? Now, because the government has imposed a tariff of $2 per each unit, so we have to see what are the imports quantity. So our import is 15 units. So 15 units multiplied by the amount of the tariff. So the 15 units multiply the tariff, that is $2. So the answer is 30. So the government will earn a $30 revenue by importing a 15 units. That is change of government revenue. Before the tariff, when the government didn't impose the tariff, government didn't had any revenue. The government revenue was zero. But once they impose some tariff, so now they start earning a revenue. This is the first impact. That is called change in income or income effect. Second, let me see what happens to the consumer surplus. Now look at the diagram again. If the price is 14, now what area will represent the consumer producer surplus? Previously, it was only area G because that was below the price line above the supply curve. But now the price line is shifted upward. So the price line is 14. So now area A, that becomes a producer surplus. Previously, it was consumer surplus. It was part of the consumer surplus. But now, because the prices are high, so that area becomes a producer surplus. So now the new producer surplus is area A plus area G. So now if we have to calculate the producer surplus, how we will calculate that? So I have calculated it here. Producer surplus. So in that case, again, we have a new rectangle. The price will start from 5 till 14 and the last consumed unit is 35. So that rectangle will represent a producer surplus. So how we will calculate? So we will take the difference between the price, that is 14 minus 5 divided by 35 minus 0, because this is a rectangle, so the overall value will be multiplied with 0 0.5. So 0 0.5 multiplied by 14 minus 5, the 14 is the maximum price, 5 is the minimum price, multiplied by 35, that's a maximum unit, minus 0. So you will get 0 0.5 multiplied by 9 multiplied by 35, so the answer is 175. Now you can see here the producer surplus has been increased. Previously, before the tariff, the producer surplus was 85, and after the tariff, the producer surplus is 175. Similarly, if we can see the consumer surplus, now a rectangle between 25 till 14 till 50. That new rectangle is representing the consumer surplus. So how we will calculate the new consumer surplus? Because this is a rectangle, again we will start from zero point 0.5. So it's zero point 0.5, it's calculated here. 0.5 multiplied by the difference of the price. The maximum price is 20, the minimum price is 14, multiplied by the quantity. The maximum quantity is 50 and the minimum quantity is 0. So you can say 0.5 multiplied by 6 multiplied by 50. The answer is 150. Now the overall consumer surplus has been declined as of the previous before the tariff. So if we can see how much is the loss of the consumer surplus or what is the gain for the producer surplus. So if we have to calculate the loss of the consumer surplus, we know that the area A, area B, area C, area D, that's a loss of the consumer surplus just due to the tariff, because that these areas were consumer surplus before imposing a tariff, but after imposing a tariff that areas are no more consumer surplus, so that's a loss for the consumer surplus. So we have to calculate that area B, C and D, that will represent our loss of consumer surplus. Now we cannot calculate the straight these areas because some of the areas are rectangle, like from area A till C, that's representing a rectangle. But from this quantity till 70, that is a triangle. So we will calculate in two parts. First, we will calculate from 0 till 50 quantity. That's representing a rectangle between 14, 12 and 15 and 50. So how we will calculate that? The first, we will start from 14 minus 50. So the 14, we'll start from here. 14 minus 12, that is a difference of the price because of the tariff, multiplied by 50 minus 0. So it's mean till that we are going to calculate area A, B, C. These three areas will be calculated here till 50. But now area D, that will be calculated separately because that is just a triangle. So we will start with the half, 0.5. So plus 0.5 multiplied by 14 minus 12 multiplied by 70 minus 50, because we are just going to calculate this triangle. So 70 minus 50. So if we'll calculate, that will be 2 multiplied by 50 for the first area A, B and C. For the D, the area D is representing 0.5 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 20. So the answer is 120. That is the loss of consumer surplus. And similarly, if we'll calculate how much is the gain for the producer surplus, that is representing area A. Area A previously was the consumer surplus, but once the tariff imposed, it becomes a producer surplus. Now we have to calculate what is the value for area A. Again, area A we have to calculate in two steps. First, up to quantity 25, that is a rectangle, and after 25 till 35, that triangle, that's a triangle. So we'll calculate in two steps. So let's suppose we start from is equal to 14 minus 12, that's the change in the price. First till 25, that's a 25 minus 0. So up to that it will be calculated. So that is 25 minus 0 plus. Now we have this rectangle from point here 25 till 35 and between 12 and 14. That rectangle we will calculate with 0.5 multiplied by 14 minus 12 and multiplied by 35 minus 25. So if we'll calculate in the next step, so 14 minus 12 is 2, then multiplied by 25 plus we can say 0.5 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 10. So the answer is 60. So the area A, that is representing 60. That is a gain for producer surplus. And if we have to calculate the deadweight loss, the area B, that is representing a deadweight loss. deadweight loss for producers, that is also called efficiency loss. So efficiency loss, how will calculate? Again, this is a triangle. So if this is a triangle, so we have to calculate the half of the area. Half of the area mean we will start from 0.5 multiplied by, what is the difference between the price? 14 minus 12. 14 minus 12. And what is the difference between quantity? 35 minus 25 multiplied by 35 minus 25. So 0.5 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 10. So the answer is 10. That is a deadweight loss for producer. So the producer, that's the efficiency loss as well. That's called redistribution effect. And if we have to calculate a consumer deadweight loss, that's the area D, that's linked with the demand curve. So the demand curves loss, the deadweight losses is representing the consumer's deadweight loss. So area D, again, the difference between the price and multiplied by the difference between the quantity multiplied with the half of the area, because again this is a triangle. So 0.5 multiplied by the difference between the price 14 minus 12 and multiplied by the quantity 70 minus 50. So 0.5 multiplied by 2, that is our tariff, multiplied by quantity 20, that is a difference between quantity. So the answer is 20. That is a deadweight loss for consumer. And how much is the total deadweight loss? That is the area D plus area B, or area B plus area D. So we already calculated the area D and B, that is producer's deadweight loss. We already calculated the area D, that's the consumer deadweight loss. So the consumer's deadweight loss plus the producer deadweight loss, that will represents our total deadweight loss. So here we can see, once the government has imposed a tariff, it changed the consumer surplus, it changed the producer surplus, it changed the government revenue, it changed the market price, it changed the imports, as well as we have the deadweight loss. Change in producer surplus and the government revenue, that is called redistribution income effect. And area B and D, that's a deadweight loss, that's representing uh, productivity loss, or you can say that is a resource allocation losses. That's all. I hope it's easy. If you like this calculation, just give a thumbs up and like the video, subscribe the channel for more videos. Thank you.